Why is it, do you think, mums are so hard on themselves?
God, they really are. We all are. I have yet to meet a mum that hasn't told me that they feel awful because they did this, or they feel guilty because they did that. And I think they're hard on themselves because it is hard to be a mum. And as you said, we put so much pressure on ourselves to do it a certain way and to make sure that our kids are as happy as they possibly can be. And that is definitely the right thing to do. And they are the most important thing. But when it becomes at the expense of your own happiness and your own well-being, then I think there is something that needs to be addressed.
Amazing. Hello, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. I'm so happy to be speaking to you today. As I mentioned before, I've got a mummies group on Facebook called Mums Against Mum Guilt. And I'm looking for mums to speak with, especially mums that have got a message and valuable things to share. And I came across your profile and I just thought the work you do is amazing. And I thought you'd be a really, really interesting person to have a conversation with. So yeah, let's start with how are you?
I feel like it's a question that is not easily answered in 2020. I am okay. I am a little bit stressed because we're having some work done on our house. So it's quite noisy and dusty and cold and, you know, that. But otherwise, I'm okay. Yeah, I've had quite a wild year, as I think most people have. So, but generally, I think I'm pretty okay.
Okay, good. Changes on the horizon, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So the theme for this conversation is very much about confidence and self-esteem. And the reason why I wanted to speak to you about this is because it seems like your practice, which I'm really going to ask about what it is that you do, is very much about, you know, building women up. So can you talk to us a bit about what it is that you do and some thoughts about why confidence and self-esteem are so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a coach and I help, in particular, working mums who feel like they want to make a change, but they don't really know where to begin, how to start, and they can't really see the wood for the trees. And often that is because they feel really overwhelmed, all the plates are spinning, and they feel mum guilt, which is why I think we've got a good connection, because that mum guilt thing is kind of a really important topic for us both. So I help them to start to break through all of the stuff that is causing that, and then get them to connect with themselves on a deeper level, and then they can start to feel more confident in making change. And so the confidence and the clarity they get from coaching just kind of allows them space and time to think about what could be, rather than being trapped in what should be, which I think is something that happens a lot once you become a mum, and when you go back to work, there is quite a lot of expectation on how you should do that and what that should look like. And I'm kind of ditching that and doing what's right for you.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important there, that I feel like that is almost like the starting place of mum guilt, that expectation that a lot of women have to bear, but also the expectation that we put on ourselves because of a societal standard that has, you know, the bulk of the work land in mum's lap. So I really hear that in terms of that expectation. I mean, why is it, do you think, mums are so hard on themselves?
God, they really are. We all are. I have yet to meet a mum that hasn't told me that they feel awful because they did this, or they feel guilty because they did that. And I think they're hard on themselves because it is hard to be a mum. And as you said, we put so much pressure on ourselves to do it a certain way and to make sure that our kids are as happy as they possibly can be. And that is definitely the right thing to do. And they are the most important thing. But when it becomes at the expense of your own happiness and your own well-being, then I think there is something that needs to be addressed and looked at, so that everyone is feeling happier and sort of more secure, more at ease. But I think it's very difficult when you're really in the thick of it, especially when your kids are really little, to kind of see the pathway through, because there's so much noise, there's so much conflicting advice, there's so much stuff out there that you could be doing, that I think we have lost sight of what we know and what we trust about what we are doing for ourselves. And I think we feel a sort of pressure to compete or compare or be like other people, and that's just really unsustainable and really hard.
Yeah, it's really, it's a lot, and it's so good that people like you are out here to support mums. I'm working with a mummy, and it's really one, how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in all the other areas of your life. So I think it's really important to get a hold of these issues to do with confidence and self-esteem, and how you treat yourself, and what that inner voice is saying, what are the, you know, the imperceptible things that you are so, have become autopilot, that you don't even realize that you have just told yourself that you're an idiot, and, you know, how could you possibly do that, and then carried on with your day. It's so important to get hold of that and to gain that awareness, because that is what being hard on yourself looks and feels like. Sometimes it is imperceptible, and I just think it's really important that we, you know, dig that all up so you can actually look at it, because so much of it is just on a subconscious level, and we kind of deal with it once it's already bubbled to the surface, and, you know, you've snapped at your child, or, you know, you stopped talking to your husband, or, you know, that's the result. But really it has come from, oh, you're someone else could have done that better, or, you know. So yeah, I'm really happy to be having this conversation with you about this, because it's so insidious and so damaging.
You're so right. It is that little voice inside you that's telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not doing it right, that somebody else could have done it better, and you don't even know that you're listening to it. You don't even know that it's there, but it's having that detrimental effect on you, and it's like chipping away all the time. And one thing I hear a lot from my clients is they'll say stuff like, well, that's just the way it is, that's just the way motherhood is, or it's just the way I am. And that's where, you know, as coaches, we can start to challenge that and get them to look at what it's making them say that, and believing those things about themselves, which are probably not true, and probably coming from God knows what, way back, but stuff that is now, as you say, coming out as a result of those beliefs.
Yeah, and it's habitual, how, you know, once you've got in your groove, and I think you need something to interrupt that pattern, and I think that's where coaching comes in, so you can be like, oh my God, I've been doing like that over and over again, and no wonder I've been having these same emotions. So then you sort of identify what those needs are, and, you know, get them met directly, and maybe some of the behaviors that aren't so desirable, you know, they might happen less. But speaking of you know, being snappy and short, which, you know, none of us are exempt, we all have our moments. Even as a coach who works with women week after week after week, I have my moments. So I want to ask you, what has it been like being a mum in 2020 for you?
Yeah, it's been testing, I think is the best word to describe it. So my boys are 7 and 5. So in the first lockdown, the youngest was at preschool and the oldest was in year 1. So I was, just a quick background, but I was working for a travel company as a coach and a trainer, and I was been there forever and ever, and I really loved it, but it wasn't ticking all the boxes. But then I went on furlough and all that. So I was on furlough for the first lockdown, which meant that for me, I became not a working mum anymore. So suddenly, after always working, I was now just being, not just being a mum, but being at home with the kids all the time, doing all the homeschooling. And my husband was working from home, but he was still doing his job full time and still is. So I had a big shift in identity, and I felt really lost for a while, because it made me realize how much working meant to me and how much I valued that part of my identity. So to then shift to being homeschooling, and obviously, like everybody, we couldn't go anywhere and do anything. So it was a lot of time together, but it was great for them, and they had that one-on-one, and it was good in ways, but it was quite a challenge. So then when I launched my coaching practice in the summer, it was a shift again, because now I was like, oh, now I am working again, but in a totally different way, because I'm working for myself. So now I have to redefine how I balance being a mum, having the kids, summer holidays, go back to school, and all of that stuff. So there's been a lot of change. And so I think it has been a real test this year, and I've learned a lot. And yeah, it's, no one could have ever predicted what this year was going to be like. But I think for me, it has been a really good learning curve, but a challenging one, but one I wouldn't change, but I would change. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many emotions, aren't there? There's just so much that's gone on.
There's so much in there that I want to unpack.
It's like,
yeah, no, there's a lot. And it's brilliant, because on the one hand, you're talking about it being lovely for your children, that one-on-one time, you know, having worked the whole time, and now you're having time with your children, which on the one hand was quite nice. But then you mentioned this feeling quite lost and realizing how much your work meant to you. And I really want to get into that, because I feel like we're in a time where women have more than ever been given the green light to go, go, go. You go get your job, get your money, have your independence. But we still got one foot in the patriarchy. Well, we are very much in a patriarchal system where, you know, the women have been unleashed, but they haven't been unburdened. So
that's a good saying. Yeah, definitely.
So we still have all these ambitions, and yeah. So just talk a bit about how. Well, would you say is it wise to be an ambitious woman, an ambitious mother?
I think, in my opinion, it is wise to be ambitious, but I think how you define that ambition is key, because like we were saying, and like you're just saying, with the patriarchy and with how we are conditioned to be, you can think that there is a certain way to be ambitious, or to be successful, or to be a working mum or a non-working mum, or whatever you choose to do. So I think knowing what ambition means to you and what your success would look like is really important, because then you can start aiming towards something that is much more realistic, much more tangible, much more likely to happen. If you're trying to be ambitious like your next door neighbour or somebody you see on Instagram, then that's not necessarily the right path for you. So I think it's about getting back in touch with what you know is right for you, what your kind of inner knowing tells you, rather than what the outside world tells you, and going with that. And so yeah, redefining ambition, and then being okay with it, being like, my ambition is different, and that's fine, and I'm okay with that, and that is going to make me happy. I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I love that you spoke about your inner knowing. I find a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really just taking that time to really connect to that heart space. And you know, everyone just has that. That's a given, but not everyone has. You've kind of over the years learned to tune out of it, because that's how you survive. Like, you know, we've grown up in a system that says you kind of need to leave your wants and needs at the door and do what's required for this role, or do what's required for this company or this family, and that's how you get by. You kind of leave your hopes and dreams at the door, so you just stop listening to that little voice that's like, hey, you want to travel, or hey, you really want to be a makeup artist, or whatever it is, you know, I want to be a midwife, whatever it is. And I feel like a lot of the work that I do is about peeling back those layers and getting women, mothers, back in touch with that voice, because again, you touched on it earlier that you felt lost because you weren't oriented in what you were doing or what you were feeling. So yeah, I love that you touched on that. Can you speak a bit more about the inner voice and getting in touch?
Yeah, definitely. So something that I do quite a lot with clients is an exercise called Ikigai, which is a coaching tool that we use to kind of connect people with their inner knowing, their why, their meaning of life, you know, however you want to describe it. And it takes you through looking at different areas of your life. So what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs from you. And you start to identify on a kind of superficial level at first what it is that's important to you. And then in coaching, you go to the deeper roots of that and really then start to connect with what is very valuable to you, what's your belief system, and what do you know about yourself. And if you know those things, then you can start to make your choices and your decisions with much more clarity and certainty, because you're not second guessing yourself anymore. You just know, and you trust that knowing. And instead of listening to your mean inner negative critical voice, you can start listening to your inner wisdom, which is the one that is kind of the truth and the actual reality of things, rather than the negative voice, which is just trying to protect you and trying to do a good job of not letting you get hurt out there in the big bad scary world, but also is holding you back and is also not letting you kind of step into your true greatness and your true potential, which also can feel quite daunting, because have this work with clients and then they go, oh God, now I know this, I feel like I have to do something with this information. And that can feel quite scary as well, because when you talked earlier about habits and we kind of do the same thing all the time, although it's not necessarily good for us, it's comfortable because it's what we know. So to suddenly unlock all this other stuff and be like, there's a whole other side of me or part of me, or the world needs this from me, to suddenly know that can feel like a bit of responsibility, like, oh God, I've now got to do something. So we can calm that down and we can take it in step by step, but it is quite a big sort of powerful thing to start recognizing in yourself.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? And so many of us have these conflicting parts, but when you do the work, you find out that actually the part that's telling you be smaller, be quieter, you're not clever enough, shut up, there is a positive intention by that, or for that side of you as well. It's just trying to keep you safe. And once you really get to know this side and not sort of condemn it and call it evil, you can balance, because this side that is wants to be out there and doing amazing things in the world, they can balance each other. Because you know, if we try and kill this shy, sensitive, or you know, part that wants to be safe, you know, then you've got the responsibility of this other side of you that wants to be out there doing all, and it's a balance. You know, at this point they're both part of you, and even if they're part of something that's come about later on, but you know, it's still part of you, part of the nurture side of you.
There's no bad or good, it's just is like, that's just you and all the different parts of you, and it's just seeing them all for what they are, not just the bits that are the loudest and kind of least helpful.
Yeah, totally. So what is the payoff for all this knowledge? So my question is, what would you tell yourself 3 years ago, if you could zoom back and look at yourself and what she's doing, and how, well, let's say 5 years ago, because I know you've got you've got little ones. What would you tell her? What advice would you give her?
I think it would be to be bolder sooner and to trust yourself sooner. And I waited, and I think that's what I see often in clients as well, is that they are waiting for the kids to be older, the situation to be right, their husband's job to change, their partner's something to change. Like they're always waiting for something.
Yes, that's what
And
I'm
I was
doing.
yeah. And then COVID came and I got made redundant, and I was like, okay, well now I can't wait. I've got to do it. But if I had listened to myself more a few years ago and really gone with what I knew, really what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, then I would have been doing it sooner, which would have just been great because I love what I do. So I think it's just be bolder, and I guess it's about being assertive as well, and going after what you want, again, because you know it's the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Also, I think myself that it will happen. I'm quite impatient as well, which doesn't help. So I think that kind of needed a bit of patience to be like, it will come in time. It's not just all going to come overnight. You have to have a bit of a plan. But yeah, to be a bit bolder would be definitely something I tell myself a few years ago.
Wow.
And to not worry what people are going to think, which they don't, because everyone's so worried about thinking about what other people are thinking that no one's thinking about anybody else. So I think putting yourself out there feels really scary, but actually if you're doing what you love and you're doing it with the right intentions and in a way that is helpful to you and to other people, then it doesn't matter if there are some people that don't agree with the path that you're taking or the choices that you've made, as long as you know that they are right for you and your family.
Yeah, there is definitely a big thing about not wanting to put yourself out there and how scary that feels. So, I mean, do you have any regrets having stepped out and doing it by yourself, not with no PAYE safety net at this point?
My only regret is that I work for a travel company, so we used to get nice perks of like going away to exotic places and fun destinations sometimes. So I do miss that, but I don't have any regrets. No, I absolutely have zero regrets because I'm doing the thing that I was meant to be doing, and the choices that I've made up until this point have been the right ones to get me here. So I try to look back on it with a kind of philosophical angle of this was all leading to this point. And it's kind of like a bit zen, isn't it, to think of karma and how things happen. But I am a big believer in the universe having a bit of a plan for you, and to kind of accept if you have the right mindset and you have the right intentions, then it's all going to happen. So if you let go of all the expectations, all the good stuff is going to happen.
Oh, that's a very, it's one of those ones where it's like, I really want to believe you, and I do. This is what I coach women through taking the leap. But I want to talk about risk. And I want to talk about how you temper that feeling of, yeah, but what if I jump, no one catches me? Or what if I jump and I fall flat on my face? What if I start showing up differently at work and people are like, who are you? Why are you suddenly bubbly when that's not who you are, Jane?
Yeah, dare you?
No, yeah, who are you? What if people feel like they can't step out of who they've been for so long because of risking complete annihilation?
Yeah, I mean, like, fear of failure is such a massive thing for so many of us because, as we said earlier, what you're doing now is safe and comfortable and not necessarily challenging. So to think about there being another path is daunting, and to think about it all going horribly wrong and it all failing is the most terrifying thing. But I think that you have to be able to balance up the risk, and whether you want to continue as you are forever being kind of okay, or you want to take that risk and see what happens. And I think it's about knowing what the consequences will be if you do take that risk, from a practical level, like financially, what are the risks if I do this, and what does that mean for everybody else? And there may be things that are just such roadblocks that it's not possible at the moment. And, you know, I don't want to be all like, oh, everything's lovely and rosy and there's no risk involved in doing your own thing or doing something different. But I think it's about being sensible and knowing what the consequences are and whether you're equipped mentally and practically to be able to deal with those things. And if you've got the right support network and the right kind of, I guess you've got people to ask for help if you need it as well, because that's another thing I find that mums are terrible at, is saying, you know, I'm really struggling, I need help, and this is why I need help, and this is what I need. And we're just no good at that because we feel like we're burdening other people. We feel like we should be able to manage and cope and do it all by ourselves. So I think that's like a whole other bit of the mum guilt that also has an effect on you wanting to make a change or do something different.
Mm-hmm. And actually that kind of makes me think, well, I really hope that 2021 we see coaching become something very normal. And because I mean, I'd love to know, what do your clients say about you? What are the benefits of coaching? Because you just touched on get the right support, and yes, that can look like asking your husband to, you know, do the school run or cook dinner 2 days a week, or, you know, speaking to a friend, but actually investing in yourself for this added support. What do you think it means to people, and what do your clients say about you?
Yeah, so I think that I wouldn't have made any of the big changes I've made in my life if I hadn't had coaching myself first, because it made me see myself in a whole new light, and it made me think about what was possible and what could be different and why I was doing things that I was doing. So I already knew those benefits. So I think doing it myself was a great place to start. And you know, we invest in lots of other things for ourselves. We will like have our hair done, have our nails done, go, in the olden days, go for spa weekends or buy something for ourselves or just go out for a meal.
Yeah.
All those things are like instant fix, self-care, nice things, yoga, bubble baths, all that good stuff. But to spend a block of money on your personal development or your personal growth, I think is still viewed as a bit of a luxury, a bit like, I don't know, something that CEOs have, or it's life coaching, so it's a bit weird and a bit like wooey. But you know, if people actually, if you could see the tangible benefits you get from coaching, and you could recognize the value in those, then it's a no-brainer. Like, it's totally worth spending the money, because you get such a transformation. You get such, people say they feel lighter, calmer, they know themselves, they feel more grounded, they feel more connected, they can suddenly see. And sometimes they'll say things like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous, I've been thinking this for so long. It's like you're just shining a light on something that they know is there already, but it just takes somebody who doesn't have that personal connection, doesn't have all the backstory, doesn't know their circumstances, and comes with, like, I come with no judgments and no assumptions about your situation. But to have that someone looking in on your life and saying, well, how about this? How about thinking about that? And what if we thought about this in a different way? It's just such a revelation, I think, is the best way to describe it. Like, I could talk about coaching every day of the week, all day long, because I think it's amazing.
Yeah, totally. And I love it that we're both people that have invested in coaching ourselves. I've worked with several coaches, and each one of them has been absolutely worth all the money I've paid them. And you're right, people do view it as like this luxury, and oh, I don't need that, I'll be fine. And it's that you know, that hindsight that I suppose it's not. I know there is a sort of the increase in popularity of coaching, but it's still not super fashionable yet. Like it is in the States. You know, everyone's got a therapist in the States. You know, that's what they do. Culturally, we're not there yet, but and coaching is different to therapy. But I just think, so powerful, because what it's doing is in introducing you to you, and it's inviting you to become more of who you are who you are authentically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that you mentioned that people say they feel lighter, because really they do. It's like you just kind of, yeah, just release.
I also think it's it's not that we're trying to make you better or like self-improve. It's not like there's something wrong with you or you're not doing things right at the moment. It's like everything that you can be is already there. It's just, as coaches, we're tapping into that like extra, a little bit extra, a little bit something else that is just not quite connecting for you yet. And I just think people sometimes worry that when they come into coaching, they're going to be told off, or they're going to be judged, or they're going to feel like they're doing something wrong. But actually, that's not the case at all.
So true. Love coaching, love coaches. So, personal question for you, Laura, because this is an interview for you, and I want to learn more about you. What does life look like for you in 3 years in an ideal world?
I think in 3 years, I immediately think, oh, my kids will be, and then I have to try and work out the maths, 8 and 10, which feels like big kids. 8 and 10-year-old boys. In 3 years' time, I think what I would love is that I have a coaching practice that is really sustainable. It's really founded on word of mouth and referrals, and that people are coming to me because they know that I can help them with making a change and unlocking that potential and getting rid of their overwhelm and their mum guilt, so that they are able to do that for themselves. So I think that's my main sort of desire business wise, is to just keep on growing and keep on spreading the word that I think working motherhood can be redefined, that it doesn't have to be this way. You know, you can do what you want to do, you can do whatever's there for you, if you just can like tap into it. That sounds very easy and simplistic, but that's why I want to kind of continue spreading that message and just reaching out to as many people as possible to explore that. And I think also just trying to get the message across all kind of walks of motherhood, because I'm aware that it can be quite a privileged thing to be able to access stuff like coaching and the cost that's involved. So being able to spread that message to all kind of levels of motherhood and all different shapes and forms of it, I think is really important as well. Yeah. And then that just make it, I think if I can do that, I will be really living that kind of ikigai notion, because it's kind of filling all those different areas, and it's not just one part of it. It's not just, I love my job, so I'm just going to do my job. It's thinking about the kind of bigger picture as well.
Yeah, you're solving a real problem and you're hitting a real need, and people come to you because they know you can solve that problem for them.
I'd also like to be able to go back on holiday, so that's also a factor in my 3-year plan.
Yeah.
I've been vaccinated, that would be good as well.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Holidays. Remember the days. Okay, amazing. I've got a couple of closing questions for you. One is, what is your message? What is your message for the world? Like, what's your main thing that you want to share?
I think it's that I want to redefine working motherhood and get across the idea that there is no expectation on you other than what you put on yourself. So that expectation can be whatever you want it to be, and you don't need to be constrained with what should be. You can totally explore what could be and what could be for you. And it's about allowing mums the time and the headspace to create that path for themselves.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, we're definitely aligned. And yeah, as I say, I just think the more that we can do for mums, the better. So you're so welcome. I love this energy of wanting to support women to be the best that they can be. That's what I do. And if someone's offering value and support, then of course I'm going to invite them along. So where can people find you, Laura?
You can find me on Instagram at That Balanced Life Coach. It's probably the best place to find me. Yeah, everything's on Instagram, just an Instagram feed. I have got a Facebook group as well. It's called That Balanced Mum Collective, and you're welcome to come and join us there. We chat about all this stuff, really, all the same kind of stuff, and have practical tools and information on how you can start to figure out this stuff for yourself and get on the pathway to your new version of your motherhood.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. It was great to speak to you.
Okay, I'll speak to you soon, Laura. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.